Hey, folks, this is Lonzo, the president of the Compton Entertainment Chamber of Commerce. I'm about to bring you one interesting show. Most of the time when people who vote go to the ballots, most of the time you don't get a chance to know all the candidates that are running for office. You get all the top ones, the mayor, the city council, senators, assemblymen, but it's always a box that is there. And I don't know nobody's face, nobody's name. And that's when it comes to the judges. Today, I have two judges on the show that want to be Superior Court judges in the county of LA. And we're going to talk to them in a few minutes. I'm going to open the phone lines up and let you talk to them. But before we do that, I got to kick it off with something, a little word from my sponsor. The Eve After Dark. You saw it featured in the 2022 Super Bowl halftime show, 50-Yard Line. The Eve After Dark documentary has become a film festival favorite. Now available on Amazon Prime, $1.99 to rent, $4.99 to purchase. Eve After Dark, where it all started. The documentary, now on Amazon Prime. All right, folks, we are back with my first guest. Her name is Georgia. How do you pronounce that? Huerta?
Huerta. The H is silent.
Huerta. That sounds like a Spanish name.
Well, it is. It's my husband's name.
Okay. I was, before I met you, before I saw you, I was a little confused. I'm like, Georgia, that sounds like something from the African-American community, but the last name, that might be a little bit Spanish, but it's all good. How you doing today?
I am doing excellent. How are you?
You know what? I am fine. This is my first time having a chance to talk to a judge without being in front of him trying to plead for my freedom.
Oh, now that's not true.
Well, I'm friends with Judge Filer, and he and I have talked on several occasions. And I explained to him a lot of black men never get to know a judge unless it's actually in front of a case of some type. So to sit here and be able to talk to someone who's running for office to be a judge is a pleasure of mine, and it's a pleasure being his friend as well. And I didn't know you and he were had worked together at some point in time.
Yes, I worked with Judge Filer when he was practicing before he became a judge. We had a couple trials together, and after he was elevated to the bench, I appeared in his court numerous times. He's a very awesome judge. He's one of the better judges that I've had the opportunity to meet and to have to actually practice in front of.
Okay. Now, how long have you been practicing law?
I have been practicing law for over 30 years. I became a deputy district attorney in 1987, 2 months after I passed the bar. Okay. And so my experience has been that of a deputy district attorney working in various different units within the DA's office.
All right. Now, why do you think you will be a good judge?
Well, I think maybe two really good reasons. One, I have the experience. I've been in court almost every day for the last 30 years. I know my way around the courtroom. I know what's expected of a judge, and I know what the duties and responsibilities of a judge are, and they're numerous. Not only that, I've had a lot of experience over the 30 years. Unlike some people who may have been in a particular unit for 10 years, 5 years, that's not my situation. I was a line deputy where I did maybe 80 cases within the first 10 years in the office. And those cases were not all the same types of cases. They ranged anywhere from petty thefts to special circumstance murders. And I say that because as a judge, you don't get all the same type of cases. You get different cases. And so I'm used to having to deal with different things and not the same thing all the time. That's just that in a nutshell. But not only that, my personal experience, my life experiences. I didn't live in a sheltered community. I lived in South Central Los Angeles. So I got to see and witness the criminal justice system in a different way than some people have. And I think that experience made me a better deputy district attorney, able to really serve the community. And I definitely believe that it will serve me on the bench as well.
That make you more compassionate, or just make you more understanding, or how do you feel that would benefit you?
I think it makes me more compassionate. I've been in court where we've had many situations where people are ordered back maybe at 8:30. and they can't get there until 9. And they tell the judge, well, I didn't have money for the bus. Some judges look at them like, what? Everybody has money for the bus. Well, you know what? Everybody doesn't. And
Mm.
if your life experience have not been where you had to be in a situation where things were not always what you needed, or if you didn't know anyone who had struggles, then when you hear that statement, it sounds strange to you. Well, it doesn't sound strange to me. And some of the statements and information that I've received, it don't sound strange to me or that they're made up, because some of those situations have been my life experiences or life experiences of my friends or family.
Okay. You know, that is commendable because it's nothing worse than being penalized for life disadvantages. You
That's
know,
right.
you being double penalized because you just didn't have the $2 or whatever. And sometimes $2 can be a lot of money.
Uh,
Okay.
yes, it can be.
So yeah, I can appreciate that, especially if you're not that late, but just to be tardy. It's not a job, but I understand. Judges want things to move right along, but sometimes life just don't deal you that deck at hand. Um, you say you have any bar associations endorsed you or ever rated you for your qualifications as a judge?
Yes, it's the Los Angeles County Bar Association, and everybody that runs for judge, they're rated. And the individuals on the LA County Bar Associations are attorneys themselves. They're not all prosecutors, they're from different professions within the law, meaning they can practice civil law, appellate law, criminal law, different areas of the law. And what they do is that they interview you. They also send out questionnaires to people who know you, to judges. Like I'm a deputy district attorney. They send out notices to the public defenders, to the alternate public defenders, and even into private practice. And they ask them questions about you, because of course I'm going to give a glowing report about myself, but what does the legal community think about me? What does the judges think? And I've been rated before by them, and I've been rated well qualified, and that's
Okay.
because I am.
Okay. Well, you know what? I have two judges today, folks. She's in the on standby right here. I'm gonna bring her in right now. Uh, Sandra Ransom. How you doing today, dear?
Good. It's Sharon, though. Thank
Sharon, I'm
you.
sorry. I'm
I'm
so sorry. I know it's Sharon, but I still said Sandra. Sharon, how you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We're just talking to Judge Attorney Walter. I'm gonna give it to a Judge Walter
Thank you.
Put it in the
and
air.
put it in the air, folks.
Yeah.
And you also are running for the office of judge.
Yes.
And what court are you running for?
I'm running for seat 97.
Now, is that a certain area or is there a certain courtroom? How does that work?
No, it's all of LA County, but what happens when a judge retires or chooses not to run again for their seat becomes open. So to be elected judge, you can serve anywhere from Lancaster to Catalina Island, Pomona, Compton, Inglewood, Beverly Hills. It's just the County of Los Angeles.
Okay. How long have you been an attorney?
I've been an attorney for 18
Are
years.
you also in the public defender's office or the attorney's office right now, or you
I'm a
independent?
deputy district attorney and
Okay,
for 18
fantastic.
years.
Okay. Now, tell me your qualifications for being a judge.
Okay, so I'm going to start the opposite way. I'm going to start with my personal background.
Okay.
I was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. I lived on 105th in Normandy. And then when I went to junior high school, we moved to Florence in Normandy. I was raised by a single mother. I went to LAUSD public schools. I became a single mother when I was 21. And I put myself through school, undergrad, junior college, law school at night while working full time. I was a sheriff's dispatcher and raising my young daughter. I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. I fought and won, and I didn't become an attorney until I was almost 40 years old.
Okay.
And I say that to say I have a lot of life experience growing up in not so nice areas, as we call it, South Central, the community. And I was able to persevere and overcome obstacles to get to where I am today. You know, with my beginnings being a single mother at 21, people told me I'm never going to be anything. I'm going to be on welfare the rest of my life, things like that. So when I got out of City of Hope being treated for cancer, I enrolled in law school. And now I have been a deputy district attorney for 18 years. Prior to that, I was a dispatcher for the sheriff's department for 17 years. And I went straight from dispatcher to the district attorney's office. Like Georgia, I've tried many cases. I've been assigned to different units. I'm in the mental health unit, which is huge, in the communities today because there's the intersection between mental illness, homelessness, and crime. And so in the mental health unit, we have a court in Hollywood. That's all we deal with is mental health. Prior to that, I was in the elder abuse unit, major narcotics. I've been in juvenile division. I've been in the victim impact program where we prosecute cases of rape, domestic violence, domestic homicide, child abuse, child molestation, things of that nature. I've also been very active in the community. We have a program called Project Lead where we teach fifth graders about the criminal justice system. And this program is dear to my heart because, of course, we're in the inner city where kids are not expected to make it. But I like to do it because if they see somebody that looks like them in the position that I'm in, I hope that it will encourage them. And I tell them my story of how I was a single parent and I didn't have parents to pay for me to go to school. I just put myself through school at night, getting student loans and things of that nature. But you can do it. When people count you out, you can do it. And so that's really important to me. I've also been involved in the Teen Court program, and that's a diversion program for youth, minors that get charged with committing a crime. If they go through this program, they're on probation, they successfully complete it, their case is dismissed and sealed. And that's important to me because that gives them a chance at a future. They're not saddled down with the criminal record, which so many of us have in the community that prevent us from going anywhere, from getting housing, from getting benefits, from getting jobs. So those kind of things make up who I am. Um, it causes me to be more empathetic, more sympathetic to the conditions that people in the inner city face. And not a lot of judges don't understand that because they're not from the community.
Okay.
So I think that we need people that understand us, that know our struggles and know where we come from. Like Georgia gave an example of a person being late because they didn't have bus fare. Some people don't understand that. They don't understand that everybody doesn't have a car. They don't have insurance for the car. They can't get there. They can't pay these exorbitant fees to probation or whatever. If there's a victim involved and they have to pay restitution, that's one thing, but they get saddled down with all these fees and it keeps them in poverty, fines and fees. And so that's something we have discretion we can use discretion as a judge. And so those are the kind of things that I want to do. I want to be a person that brings balance. And like I said, my life experience and my legal experience to make decisions for people that are fair and just and take into consideration their backgrounds, where they come from, what brought them into the system, whether it be mental illness, drug addiction, poverty, lack of resources. But I think we need to take all that into account before we sentence someone to jail or to prison.
You know what? You just took one of my questions away from me. How do you feel about how do you view mental health and the homelessness situation in the criminal justice system?
So
So please.
Okay, so yeah, I've been in the mental health unit for the last 3 years, and it has been really eye opening for me. Um, we have different programs. Like if a person's not competent, they commit a crime. They're found to be not competent to stand trial because you cannot try a person that's not competent. Meaning they have to understand the charges against them and they have to be able to work with their attorney. They have to understand the system. If they can't, then they come to our court and we have 2 years for them to become competent. And if they are found, they go through training. If they're found competent, then they go back to criminal court to face their charges. If not, and they're too dangerous. I mean, we have people that have committed murders, rapes, different assaults. If they're too dangerous to be released to the public, then they'll stay in a state hospital. And we file extension petitions. So I see a lot of homeless people committing crimes. What is good about the system, though, is we have a diversion program. And in the diversion program, a person whose offense is not serious or violent, they can go through community treatment. And these are homes, and the funding gives them a bed. And we do progress reports for some of these people that are placed in these homes. And, it really warmed my heart to hear one guy say, He committed a crime, he's incompetent, but he's now in this diversion program. The first time he's really seriously addressed his mental health problem. The
Mm.
first time he said, "This is the first time I slept in a bed in 20 years. First
Wow.
time I've had a shower." So I think it's doing good things. And I didn't realize this before I got transferred to that unit, of the good things that are done. And it's a collaborative effort. It's not prosecutors trying to put people in jail for their crimes, it's trying to get help for them. We work with the defense attorneys, the social workers, the doctors, and the judge to find the right programs for people to go to. And a lot of times there are failures. There were people that leave the program and go back to doing what they were doing. They don't want to take their medication, or they want to self-medicate with meth or marijuana. We try to steer them away from that, but there are some success stories. The people that successfully complete the program, they are their case is dismissed, their record is sealed, they continue with their treatment, and they can go and be a productive citizen. Because I think we need to treat the people, and if we treat the people, make the people better, we make our communities better. So I really get a lot from working in the mental health unit.
I'm gonna take a quick break for a minute. I gotta play a quick commercial, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
You're live with Lonzo, Compton Chronicles, folks. We ladies. Wow, this. You know what? I never see judges outside of court. Maybe I do. I may walk right past them, don't know who they are. Don't know a lot of judges. Judge Father is my first judge that I had a chance to shake his hand without my freedom being in jeopardy. Okay. How many judges are running in your various races?
Alonso, before we go on to that question, can I answer the last question
Sure,
you
go ahead.
asked regarding mental health and homelessness? I was working in Compton, and I had the opportunity for 3 years, not just every other day or once a month, but 3 years to work in the alternative sentencing court. It's a community collaborative court. In that particular court, the parties in the court, meaning the prosecutor, the defense attorney, the judge, representative from mental health, different programs, we work as a team for rehabilitation and treatment for the people in that program, not for punishment. There are 6 types of different defendants that we work with in that department. Individuals suffering from substance abuse disorder, people who have mental illness and mental health issues, the homelessness, foster care youth, or young people under 25 who was in the foster care system, so they don't have a network once they're kicked out of the system at 18, veterans, and people who are sexually trafficked. And the beauty of this particular unit is exactly what Sharon said. We are looking at the root cause of the criminal activity. We're not looking to punish for the criminal activity. We're looking for the root cause of the criminal activity. Many times with people who suffer from mental health issues, they can't afford the medication, or they have not been diagnosed. So they commit crimes, they find themselves in the criminal justice system. If they came into our court, the first thing that's done is a medical evaluation. Exactly what are they suffering from? And what type of medication, if medication is needed, to help treat them. With substance abuse, it's the same thing. It's not like, well, don't do that anymore. I remember the judge telling me that, and it is true, when you're dealing with someone who has a substance abuse problem, it is part of recovery for them to maybe use in the beginning. Because if it was easy to get off illegal substances, we wouldn't have a problem. So simply because someone tested positive, that was not a reason for us to kick them out of the unit. Sometimes the court, sometimes that is a reason somewhere else. But in that unit, we understood that that's part of recovery. Also, as it relates to the homelessness crisis, we think about sometimes wrongly that homeless people are just people who want to be out on the street. Well, that's not true. There are many people who have lost their jobs, many people who cannot afford this high rent because rent is not affordable, and they find themselves homeless. They find themselves sleeping in tents on the street. If for some reason one of these individuals find themselves in our court, our first job was to get them off the street and get them into a shelter. And then actually provide them with training if they needed, counseling. And before they left our program, they had a house to stay in. And the rent was affordable. It's so difficult when you hear people saying they're trying to get on Section 8 and it took them 10 years and they're still not on. Well, through this program, it happened a lot quicker. And so this particular program, the Alternative Sentencing Court, I think it is an awesome program. I feel fortunate enough to have been in that court because when I sit as a judge, I can take that knowledge and really help people. And it doesn't always have to be in a criminal setting. So I do want you to know that many of our judges that are sitting may not know about these programs and not familiar with them. And so it is an asset, I think Sharon and I both have, that we have that experience. And if it's appropriate and should be used as judges, then we can use it and not just revert back to the old way of putting someone in jail. We will use rehabilitation and treatment because we know it can be successful.
How does someone get referred to your court or that program so that it can qualify for something like that?
Well, in my court, it was the defense attorney that would refer them. And even in my court, we took individuals who had serious felonies. We didn't have anyone in there for murder, but we had some in there for really serious assault cases because not only, I don't know if I told you, but we dealt with veterans. So sometimes I remember seeing a couple of veterans, they committed a crime suffering from PSTD. You know, they were reliving something that happened to them when they were in the military. And they actually really seriously hurt someone. But we in the court realized that their action was a result of trauma and that the trauma had to be treated. So we worked very closely with the Veterans Administration. We have veterans who don't know how to maneuver the Veteran Administration to get the services that they need. We had a representative from the Veterans Administration in our court that was responsible for finding the services that our veterans needed. So to answer your question, it's the defense attorneys. They were responsible for referring people to our court.
And in Lonzo, in my case, once the defense attorney and or the judge has communications with this defendant, they determine at that point, based on something that might have been said, that this person might not be competent, and so the court or defense attorney refers them to the mental health court.
Okay, all right. That could change a lot of lives if used properly. Okay,
Right.
definitely.
And I can tell you a lot of lives were changed in our program. Like Sharon said, we didn't have 100% success rate, but if we just helped one, that's success. That's one less.
From a community advocate standpoint, it seems like to me, now I could be wrong, this had nothing to do with running for judge. It seems like people, when you need, unless you, it's like the old Whisper song, seems like I got to do wrong for somebody to notice me.
Yeah.
That was a song I loved, and I didn't understand it at first. Once I understood it, and I got involved in the community, I'm like, okay, it's like being a B student or a C student. The A students got all the scholarships, and the F students got all the programs. But the B and the C students, nobody really pay them no attention because they're pretty good kids. They do their homework, and they're pretty much on your own. But if you're an A student, you got all kind of opportunities to go to college. And if you're an F student, you got all kind of programs to help you become a better student. But again, if you're in the middle, you almost got to commit a crime to get somebody's attention, and that's kind of unfair. But I'm glad you ladies are there to assist the folks.
I can tell you one thing I believe that I saw in my court that I think made our court so successful, and it was the judge. The judge held everybody accountable. All too often, we hold the person who maybe committed the crime accountable, and the court sends them to programs, and they never follow up. They don't determine whether or not the programs are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Well, The judge, she made sure they were doing the programs. Just like Sharon said, a progress report was done once a month. And if something was not done that the judge ordered the program to do, she would have them come to court. They couldn't hide in their office.
Mm-hmm.
She had them come to court and she would ask them. You know, the power of somebody sitting elevated in a black robe looking down at you,
Yeah.
asking you why you didn't get medication or why didn't you get this person to counseling. That changes things. And
Right.
I realized that as a judge, you can't change the world, but you can change some things. And the
Okay.
things that we can change as a judge, we need to change those.
Okay. I love it. Going back to my other question, how many other candidates are for these various offices you ladies are running for?
Where there are two other individuals in my race, I'm running for seat 135.
And
135,
there are two other individuals in my race. I'm running for seat 97.
97. Okay. Are these? I'm not. Gonna ask, I'm not going to ask about the candidates. I'm gonna focus on y'all. I'm not asking about nobody else. We're not even going to worry about that. I was going to ask some other questions. I'm going to leave that alone. Uh, what the actual election is in March, right?
Yes, March
March
5th.
5th.
You have to get to 51% like the other politicians.
Mhm.
50.1. Yeah.
50.1% will put you in the seat in June or yeah, in June, right? Or July.
Well, no, we would be sworn in at the first of 2025.
Mhm.
Ah, okay, okay,
But Alonzo, something else that's really important
okay.
is that the mail-in ballots go out to the community, to all registered voters on February 5th. Right around that day, they will be mailed out. So everybody here in the state of California receives a ballot by mail. So people have the opportunity to start voting starting February 5th or 6th when they get their mail-in ballots.
Mhm.
And all you need to do is just drop it back in the mail because there's a stamp already on it, or take it to a box and drop it in there. And then 10 days before the actual election day of May 5th, the voting centers will be open.
March 5th.
So, oh,
March,
yeah, March 5th. I'm sorry.
March.
10 days before March 5th, the voting centers will be open where you can actually walk into a voting center and vote. But the last day to vote is March
It's March
5th.
5th.
Now, I've had arguments and debates with various people from the community. My vote, the vote don't count. You're wasting your time. Blah 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 blah. And I'm gonna ask both of you ladies the same question. But before I did, I'm gonna say something. I explain to them like this right here. When you listen to the news and you hear how different sections are being gerrymandered, how people are doing different things to make it difficult for you to vote. When you look out in Georgia and it's illegal to give you a bottle of water while you're in line,
Right.
and how does it is in Georgia? It's illegal to give you a bottle of water
It
while you're in line.
is.
It tells you that there's something to this voting thing. Okay, if it wasn't valuable, they wouldn't be trying to steal it. If it wasn't valuable, they would not try and convince you. Don't waste your time because they in line. Don't waste your time. We got this. Don't worry about it. So could you please? I'm gonna ask Georgia first. Would you
Mhm.
please explain the importance of voting in all, especially local elections?
You can't. It's important. We just don't, first of all, people don't realize, especially in local elections, how close those races are. It's not like there are thousands and thousands of votes separating candidates. It can be as few as a couple hundred votes. On the local level, people need to go and find out information about the people who are on the ballot to see whether or not those people represent the ideas and have the same types of things that are important to them that they have. And then, most of all, don't let someone tell you that your vote won't make a difference because that is not true. We live in a democracy, at least we're trying to live in one. We live in a democracy and things are done through the vote. It makes no difference how much noise you make outside of the system. You have to be inside of the system. So I believe in, especially in local elections, because it affects our water, it affects our trash, it It affects our school. It affects our property taxes. So when you say, oh, it doesn't affect me, yes, it does. And you need to be involved. Otherwise, you get people in office that have their own agenda, and it's not necessarily the agenda that will benefit the community.
Okay. Sharon?
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback off of what Georgia said, and also to add, if you don't vote, you can't complain about the outcome.
That's right.
You have to vote. And as Georgia said, the local elections are more important than the presidential election,
Mm-hmm.
because those are the things that affect us on a day-to-day basis. The right judges, having the right judges in the court is important. Having the right, like Georgia said, trash, water, those things are important. School district, we vote for changing criminal laws. Those things affect us on a daily basis, and it's important to vote, because whether you think your vote counts or not, it does count, because the more votes that the person gets, that puts him over the edge to win. But if a person think, oh, my one vote won't count, that's not true. It takes all of us to go to the polls. Our ancestors fought for the right for us to vote,
Right.
and we need to recognize that, and we need to vote. These are things that are important to our community. We see things happening in our community, and we feel like we don't have a voice, but it starts with voting for certain things or voting against certain things. It all depends, but you have to vote. Voting is so important.
Now, are either of you involved in any other community orientated services?
Well, I am like Sharon. I do Project Lead. I've done that for numerous years. I've always done it in Compton. When you sign up for it, it's all over the county. But I want,
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
We got a caller calling in.
okay, real quickly,
Hold
but
on,
I
caller.
want I want children within my community that look like me or children of color to see success. All too often they see other people that look successful. I want them to know, just like Sharon said earlier, that regardless of where you live, regardless of what your background is, you get to make the decision what you want to do with your life. And my life was similar to Sharon's. Growing up in South Central Los Angeles, my church is still in South Central Los Angeles. My church is on the corner of 78th and Broadway. It's our family church. And I am very active in my church because my church is very active in our community. I serve on the trustee board. I am the president of the usher board.
Okay.
I'm the COVID
You
19
stay in the road
coordinator.
a bit, don't you?
But you know what? Those are things that are important to our community. We
All
have
right.
outreach programs about clothing and food. I'm out there on Saturdays, or well, we really don't do it on Sundays, but it's Saturdays or whatever, working in the community, because if we want the community to change, the change has to start with us.
All right. We got a caller. Caller, talk to us. Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
Why? Hello.
Yeah, go
Hello.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. I just came in late, so I don't really know where you're, what topic you're actually speaking of. But I had a question. Do you think that some of the changes that have taken place in the way that cases are being found or not being found is a contributing factor in the rise of crime? And if, when elected, how would you help in giving the right punishment for the crime?
Thank you, caller.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of the
First
question.
part of it.
Yeah, I didn't hear the
Say it
first
again,
one.
please.
Okay. Okay. My question is, do you think that some of the changes that have recently taken place in the way cases are being filed or not being filed is a contributing factor in the rise of crime? And if elected or good, how would you help in giving the right punishment for the crimes that are committed that come through your courtroom?
So I can answer that. First, if elected, we have sentencing guidelines, and if elected, but we can also use discretion. And if elected, we can go by the guidelines and use discretion. And when I spoke earlier about trying to see why a person is in the system, are they stealing because they need to eat? Are they stealing because they have a drug problem? Are they stealing just because it's fun? Are they stealing because they can get away with it? As a judge, those are the things you take into account when you're trying to determine what sentence to impose on a person. Are they stealing because they're mentally ill and they don't think that it's wrong? So that's one thing. The other thing, the rise in crime, we can only speak on that to a certain extent because that's always pending litigation as judicial candidates. The judicial canon of ethics prevent us from giving opinion on things that could come before the court. But I will say that there are a lot of changes that are taking place in the criminal justice system, and whether that contributes to the rise of crime is unknown. I know we do see a lot of revolving door, people being arrested and released and arrested and released. That could contribute to it, but at this point, we're not really at liberty to speak on the legal part of it. But I will say that as judges, I will follow the law. I will use discretion where I can. And sometimes when people are in and out of the system, we do what we can to give treatment, to do alternatives to incarceration. At some point, jail is what that person might need.
Okay. I agree with Sharon, but as it comes to punishment, sometimes we think the only punishment is probation or jail or prison. There is more to punishment than that. Do you know, depending on what the crime is, the judge can say no probation, depending on what the crime is. So there's a range of things that a judge can do when it comes to finding the right, I won't use the word punishment because it's not always punishment, but the right decision about what to do with that particular case, because there are no two cases that are the same. And sometimes when you get in the habit of thinking, oh, I've seen this 1,000 times, and you just roll out the same type of disposition, then you're really not looking at the case individually. And I think, and I know as a judge, I will do that because it's so important. And not only that, the judge can, in certain situations, decide that they will not take the plea and decide that they want something else done. But there's a wide range of things that we can do as a judge, and we need to do those things when we can. And not only that, it just come to mind sometimes you can see somebody in one community that commit a crime and they just get a slap on the hand. And another time, in another community, the person goes to prison for 50 years, and you're trying to figure out, why is this? Why is there such a disparity? And I think sometimes, I don't know the circumstances of those situations, but sometimes it's the lack of diversity. There's a lack of different judges having different experiences and taking things into consideration. Like Sharon said, we take things in consideration for mitigation. We take things in consideration for aggregate, to use against them. So it's our place as judges to look at the entire spectrum in making a disposition.
Right.
All right. Caller, your question answered?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for calling. All right, folks. We have the only call-in show on the internet right now. That's how we do it here. We're doing something a little different today. I'm out of questions. I hope both of you ladies, I hope I don't see you at work, but I hope you're successful. I want you to be successful, but I don't want to visit your job under any other circumstances other than to come by and say hello. I got to say this. Georgia came to our business mixer last Thursday over at the hotel, and she won the Easy E T-shirt.
I sure did that.
Picture of her with an Easy E T-shirt on, so I know she's cool. Okay, and you want somebody that's that's making a decision about your life to have an understanding, some kind of from the same areas, of same background. So they do have an understanding. Like you said before, when you're looking at somebody that can change your life with the hit of a gavel, and one person gets probation, the other person gets all day in jail for the same crime. You need that diversity, you need the understanding to help move forward. And I hope that both you ladies make it. I'm gonna give it to both of y'all, Judge Walter and Judge Ransom. I'm looking for both of y'all to be in your judges' roles. And Judge Walter, you in a robe anyway every Sunday doing your thing at church. So I'm not mad at either one of you. We have about 20 minutes left in this episode. You ladies can take it away if you want to. I'm out of questions. I just want to hear what you got to say.
Well, I can give you a little bit about my history.
Go
I
ahead.
did that in the beginning. I was raised in South Central Los Angeles on 104th and Broadway. And it was because I lived in that community with my single mother, my 6 other siblings. You know, you get introduced to the criminal justice system sort of early. You get to see the struggles within the community. And when I say struggle, because I'm not necessarily talking about economical struggles, but how people are treated within the community. You know, we saw some police officers, and not all. And I have to tell you, I am a proponent of law enforcement. I believe our citizens need protection, that we need a safe community. But I also saw officers that I felt did not treat everyone fairly because we did live in a low income area and we were people of color. But then I also saw some of my neighbors committing crimes against each other. And that wasn't right either. And that's why I became an attorney. I can tell you, I had a sister who had a substance abuse problem, and she went to court and they did nothing. Well, you have to pay for a program. Well, she didn't have money to pay for a program. So it's like Sharon said, it became just a revolving door. And she never got the treatment that she should have gotten. I wish the alternative sentencing court was in place then, but it was not. And I had someone that I really loved and admired committed a crime, and it was a serious crime. It was, but they received so much time in jail, they would never see the light of day. So, you know, I agree that some situations a person needs to be incarcerated, but even with that, the question becomes how much? Are they incarcerated for 5 years, 10 years, or 100? You know, we have certain enhancements that we as judges can use, and we should use them in certain cases to prolong a person's time being confined. But we need to look at the entire picture, like Sharon said. What brought them here? Why are they here? All those things, and make the decision based on that, as opposed to some preconceived notion about who should be incarcerated and who should not.
And I'd like to add, so of nearly the 700 judges in Los Angeles County, less than 5% are Black women. But when you look at the participants in court, this is the majority are minorities.
Yeah.
We need representation from our community, people from our community that have a foot in the community, that know what our struggles are. So when they make these decisions, they have everything. We don't need the judges that come from gated communities where they don't experience what we experience on a daily basis. Times have really changed, and my mom is one that is like goes out all the time, but now she's kind of afraid to go out because there's so much crime going on. And I think we need to focus on making our communities better. We don't, like George alluded to, one person that commits a crime in one part of the county can get a totally different sentence than a person that commits the same crime in a different part of the county. And it should be consistent across the board and not done in a blanket policy, but based on an individual case basis and what that person did to get them in the system. So I think we need people of color on the bench, as though we have the majority of people of color in the courtroom, and not only in criminal, but also if once elected, we can go to criminal law, civil law, family law, dependency law, probate. And me, if I had my choice, I would go to dependency because I want to be in a place where I can make a difference in a child's life from the bench. Because like I said, and we both said, for people from the community to see us, especially me coming, being a single parent and being raised by a single parent, it speaks volumes to what they can do. And so I really like to be a um a role model and encourage people to do better. So that's one of the reasons that I would love to be on the bench, just to show our people that there's someone that understands what you're going through, that understands that you're in this system, and what can we do to make you better before we throw you away.
Okay. Now I got my chat room. I just checked on my chat room a second ago. I see a couple of questions here, and the one that says, "Judge, will you press criminal charges against RSO single room occupants, slumlords providing unlivable conditions?" I'm not familiar with that situation. Are you familiar with that at all?
Well, first of all, young man, the person who made the call, is not the judge's job to press charges. That is done by the district attorney's office or someone in civil court bringing a complaint. What the judge's job in a situation like that is to listen to the evidence provided by both sides, to do their research on the law, and make a decision whether or not that person is in violation. If they find that that person is in violation, then that's when I believe a judge should look at all the facts and circumstances and render an opinion. I honestly believe that people understand that when they come to court, there's one side that's going to win and there's one side that's not going to get what they want. I believe people can accept that if they believe the judge has treated them fairly, if the judge has listened to them and taken their position into consideration, and if the judge can articulate how they reached that decision. They may leave disappointed, but at least they feel that they've had their day in court and the decision that was made, even though it wasn't in their favor, wasn't made willy nilly, that someone thought about it and made the best decision that they could at that time.
Okay, love it. All right. Um, I got a crazy question. This for my own personal edification, as they say. I like funny stories. Have you ever had a situation in court that was just so crazy? You just like, oh, you going home because that was a good one. Okay, I'm gonna let you go because that was a good story, a good lie, whatever the case may be. Have you ever experienced anything of that nature?
Ooh, in mental health, we have so many. It's so hard to think of one. We have in my mental health court. And first, I also wanted to back up to say
Go
I was
ahead.
also rated well qualified by the Los Angeles
Oh,
County Bar Association, so I didn't want to let that pass. But um, my judge and one other thing that I like about certain judges, and this is the kind of judge that I want to be. I have a judge in mental health court. He talks a lot. The court reporter gets so annoyed because he talks, but for each individual case, he treats that person with respect. He addresses them by their name. When they first come to our court, he makes a note about something about them. So, for instance, one guy, he was concerned about his cat. And every time we have a progress report, the judge asks him, "How's your cat?" So last week, the judge asked him about his cat. He was like, "Oh, Your Honor, my cat ran away." So then the judge was like, "Oh boy, I won't ask that anymore." But he personalizes it. He makes them feel like they're people. And I like that about him. And that's the kind of judge I want to be, to not just treat this person as a case number, but as a person, and show them that they're, regardless of their situation and what they've done, they deserve respect. They're worthy of respect. And that's one thing I like about him. And he has lots of funny stories because he'll tell the he'll tell a defendant, "Oh, I wore Adidas. You know, I have a picture of me wearing Adidas," and he's a Caucasian judge, but he tries to connect with everybody on some level, and it works. It works because they see that it's not just such a stiff court, but we all have our moments. We all have our moments where we have some levity, and sometimes it's serious. But that court is the way I would like to run my court, to make everybody feel like they're an individual and that they're deserving of respect.
Will there
Well,
be a candidates forum for the judges?
Very few, very
Very-
few.
How the judges campaign? I mean, I see them on the ballot. I don't see no posters. I don't see no commercials. No candidates for them. How does the judge campaign? I see you on the ballot. This, like I said before, this is my first time seeing judges before their names on the ballot. And like I said before, because usually I just go by the ones that sound familiar to me. I'm okay. I don't know that. I hope I don't see it. That's all. I'm gonna check them off. But
Well, I just think traditionally, and it's just my assumption, traditionally, judges really didn't campaign and they don't campaign like other candidates. Because other candidates, they can say, well, I'll do this if I get in office.
Yeah,
I promise to change that. I
yeah.
promise to bring in new legislation. I promise to get your taxes lowered. Well, a judge really can't make those promises. And if someone who's running for office is making promises about, I'm going to change the system, I'm going to do this, you better be leery of that
right.
because we have to work within a certain parameter. We have to follow the law. And that means even laws that we personally don't like. But what we like or dislike personally has nothing to do with us doing our job on the bench. And I believe sometimes that's where judges are not as effective because they allow their personal feelings to be a part of their ruling. And that's a mistake. We are all human. We have to keep ourselves in check. We have to realize, you know what, personally, I may think this way, but the evidence in the law is this way, and we have to do that. So, for one, judges can't get on the stump. And then I think now it's just my opinion. More people are realizing that there are other ways to become a judge other than being appointed by the governor.
Okay.
They can do what Sharon and I are doing. We can run for election, and that is what we're doing. I can speak for myself. I am privileged that you allowed me to be on your podcast because whoever's listening to your podcast will hear me. Without this podcast, they would not hear me. I participated in other political forms, I mean, so judicial forums, because we can't even campaign with non-judges. We can't. So I can't go to campaign of assembly person and campaign with them. The judicial canons say we cannot do that because we're nonpartisan. People have to feel that when they walk into your courtroom, that you have not already made your mind up about things, that you have a clear mind, that you will treat them fairly, and you will make the decision based on the law and the evidence. And that's why we can't answer certain questions because we don't have the facts before us, we don't have the evidence before us, and our personal feeling is not relevant.
And Lonzo, I would like to add also to piggyback off of that and answer your question. So, judicial races are, a lot of people say, oh, I just pick the first name I see, or I pick this name if I think this about this person. So, every candidate has a website. And my website is
Yes.
www.sharonransomforjudge.com. Georgia will tell you hers. But you can go to our websites. You can Google us. Sometimes there are articles about cases we've handled or things that we've done in the community. But everybody has a website. You can go check that website. When you get your ballot, see those names listed, check out websites. You can see the person, you can see what they've done. And that makes you a little bit more of an informed voter. I mean, you can't know everything, but those things you can find out from checking our website.
And yes, my website, Georgia for Judge 2024.
Okay.
.com.
You know what? I think this is a great way to get your message out because you ladies have been very informative. I learned a lot about the political system when it comes to judges. I got a chance to see you and meet you. Hope I don't see you at work. Again, that's just one of my goals. I'm a good guy. But again, people need to see judges before it's too late. At least get an idea of who they're voting for, who they may end up in front of, and the kind of programs that are available. And sometimes just by knowing, they may not get in front of you in court, but they may, hey man, What about that alternative sentencing program they have that they offer? How can my son, my daughter get into something different other than just jail or probation? And by knowing that program, you've been a help today.
Yeah. Glad. I'm so glad you have on here. It's really helpful, and I'm really thankful.
Before we go, give them all your information right now. You have social media, you have Facebook, Instagram. Talk to us.
So mine is www.SharonRansomForJudge.com. My Facebook is Sharon Ransom for Judge. Instagram is Sharon Ransom #4Judge. And I think I'm on TikTok, but just very briefly because I'm not really familiar with TikTok. I'm not doing any voiceovers or anything, but some of my things are on there. My consultant put them on there. So those are ways to also see what we're doing in our campaign.
Okay, fantastic. Georgia.
Oh, well, it is Georgia Huerta. Huerta is HUERTA for Judge 2024. My Instagram is Georgia Huerta for Judge. My Facebook is also Georgia Huerta for Judge. I think going to my website, you will get information regarding me and all the different ways that Sharon spoke of. There's a candidate statement when you get your ballot that you can read some information about us. I think one of the things when you're doing your research about us, all of us have experience. You just have to decide whether or not that's relevant experience. Do the individual have the type of experience that you want to sit on the bench? It's just like when you go to a doctor. If you go to a doctor for a heart problem, you don't want a podiatrist coming in to diagnose you. He has plenty of experience. He's a doctor. He may have all kinds of awards, but he's a podiatrist, and you're there for a heart problem. So I just say that when you do your research, look to see whether or not all the people have the type of experience that you think would be a benefit for your community to have that judge on the bench.
All right.
I agree.
Well, ladies, it's been a pleasure. It's been very informative. And before I go, I got to play one more commercial. Be right back. The Eve After Dark. You saw it featured in the 2022 Super Bowl halftime show, 50-Yard Line. The Eve After Dark documentary has become a film festival favorite. Now available on Amazon Prime, $1.99 to rent, $4.99 to purchase. Eve After Dark, where it all started. The documentary, now on Amazon Prime. All right, we're about to wrap up, folks. We have two lovely, I might go call them female, two lovely judges on the show, vying to be the judge for the 137th and
135
and the 97th,
135
and the 97th judges seats in Los Angeles Superior Court. Cast your vote. You know the vote is March 5th. You'll see them in the court see their names on the ballots. Please support them, folks. Please support them. We got to go. Thank you very much, ladies. We appreciate it.
Lonzo, I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
want to tell them one thing because people have asked me, well, I live in San Pedro. Can I vote for you? As long as you live in Los Angeles County, regardless what city in Los Angeles County, but as long as you live in Los Angeles County, our names will be on your ballot.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies. We will see you at the ballot, folks. Don't forget your vote is very important. Thank you for watching. And if you don't see it on Facebook, watch it on the Compton Entertainment channel. Just push live, the live button. Thank you very much. Peace.